because it is the week of a little movie called... Zach, you can say the name since I know you loved it so much.
Love and Thunder. Yes, we are back to the MCU this week with Thor, Love and Thunder. Taika Waititi back in the director's chair to take on Chris Hemsworth's Thor and a whole other slew of big-name actors in this one. Natalie Portman returns to the franchise as Jane. Christian Bale, as we talked about earlier, plays Gore the God Butcher. Tessa Thompson is King Valkyrie. Russell Crowe is here as Zeus.
I need one word from you, though. Yes or no on Russell Crowe?
On Zeus? Oh, big time. Yeah, let's get the Zeus movie started. Come on. At least somebody decided to show up and make a choice with their character.
Yes, I was entertained. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So speaking of Thor, Love and Thunder, we've both had the chance to watch it. We'll probably wait until next week to dive more deeply into it to really pull this film apart. But what was your reaction to the latest MCU film?
Bro, it's a stoner comedy. They said it was a rom-com. Now this thing a stoner comedy with all of its 70s homages. Yeah. They love Guns N' Roses in this. And any way that you can put Guns N' Roses. Like, not just the music. If you could fit it into the script, if you could fit it into the production design, they found every way possible to put Guns N' Roses into this thing, which...
costume design.
Too much. But I guess it's been a minute since Guns N' Roses has been in a big movie, so they're taking advantage of it. I don't like it better than Ragnarok. I did my little list really quick to see where it fit. I think you may have this one lower than I do, but the way that I would compare it is... I don't think it's above Shang-Chi and Multiverse of Madness for me, going off the recent ones. But it is definitely way better than Eternals and Black Widow. I think it's a movie that does know what it's going for.
I agree.
But it's very... It's not a bad thing, right? Like, it's not connected to anything else, really. It's very much a parody of the idea of being the fourth Thor movie. And part of me thinks that's really funny, and then the other part of me wish that the jokes were a little funnier. I know he does the whole filming 8 hours, and sometimes I feel like the jokes that needed the context to build up to something weren't there because they needed to trim this under 2 hours. And there's a lot of banter that probably would have made the jokes a lot funnier. But I'm looking forward to rewatching it. I know they have an IMAX version of it. Probably grab a couple of beers and go watch this before you see it. And I think you may have a good time because you're not really doing any homework. You don't have to worry about a lot of these other Marvel movies where you're like, how is this connected to that? Again, it's practically making fun of all that. And it's not Taika at his best, but it's definitely a lot of Australians having a good time, dude. Russell Crowe. Taika, Hemsworth, they filmed the whole thing in Australia, so I mean they were just chilling on this movie. That's the best way I could pitch it, but probably falls at the middle for the MCU for me. Not bad, but I really love Thor. I saw you freaking really love Thor too. Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok's in my top 5. I don't know if I have it number 1 like you do, but top 5 for me is a pretty big deal, and I think that's also why I was judging this one a lot harshly going into it.
Right.
Because it's having way more fun. I think the first one for Ragnarok has a surprisingly deep story in there, and I think the timing on a lot of their banter is better than this one, where it feels like, dude, Star-Lord in this, the Guardians, who are just here practically for a cameo, I don't know why they push them so much, you could feel Chris Pratt going like, I'm not executive producer on this one. Finish your little handshake thing, and I could go back to filming my stuff. But it's okay.
I don't know. There was something a little bit half baked about this one that had me frustrated with it. As you mentioned, I got Ragnarok ranked as my highest MCU movie, mostly because I don't really care about the stories too much. I'm there to be entertained, and that one was the one that entertained me the most. And here I felt like they were just doubling down on so many of the things that they did in the last one, but to less effect. Like they bring back a bunch of the dynamics and the jokes, and Korg kind of has the same dynamic, and they do the play again and all this stuff. I don't know.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
Sort of like they're going beat by beat through the jokes they liked from the last one and just doing worse versions of them.
Yes.
I found it to be dreadfully unfunny, and I couldn't really get myself to laugh. It all felt recycled. I feel like at some point when you're writing a joke like I thought you said this was going to be a vacation. I said this was going to be like a vacation. Like, somebody on set should have stepped up and been like, wait, I've heard that one 1,000 times before.
Yes.
And there's like, I don't know. I don't think Taika's an untalented dude, but I do feel myself growing tired of the shtick a little bit.
I was really worried coming into this because I have not been liking his performances. Yeah. I didn't want it to bleed into his direction and screen rating. I love when actors get EPs. They need to stop giving them EPs, bro. There's one thing that an actor used to not be able to do, and that's go into the editing room. And with these EP credits, they're going in there, and I feel like they're picking the wrong shots, man. That's the best way that I could put it. There's something in rewatching Ragnarok where the jokes aren't just fresh, but the timing is there. And this, yes, it feels regurgitated. It feels like what hit the first time. Let's try to do it again, and you're right. It's just off. The editing choices that they decided to go for. I still feel the movie's being edited. And I think we all know this because that trailer came out so last minute.
They're definitely going to be fixing the VFX because there's this one moment. I want to know if you
selling stuff like that, man.
Yeah, there's this one moment where they're walking on the bridge like towards Zeus, and Natalie Portman gets like one of those fake helmets on, and it's like one of the fakest helmets they've ever done in one of these movies.
You know, this is shot on the volume.
What was that?
This is shot on the volume. What they shot Mando in, what they shot the Batman in.
Oh yeah, which should look better.
Not when you're not paying attention to it, bro. Like just because you're shooting in there doesn't mean you have to stop storyboarding and blocking. I don't know. To me, it's a big Saturday morning cartoon. I think if you're interested in it, you're gonna go watch it. If Ragnarok was not for you, this is definitely gonna be it. And if Ragnarok was for you, I think you'll still end up preferring that one over this one.
2 quick questions before we move on. Christian Bale, we talked about him briefly. Yes or no as the villain? Because like I thought the villain was kind of thinly drawn, especially for an MCU character, but I did really enjoy how much he hammed it up, particularly in that one scene where he's got them all tied up. Like you could just tell he's having fun. But they don't
more
give
of that
him much.
Scene right there. I know exactly what scene you're talking about. In the dark where he's sitting in the shadows.
A little more menacing and like Joker-ish almost.
Yes, that's the only scene where you get that, in my opinion. You had stated that you have 2 Oscar winners who do meet in this movie, and it is the most bland thing. I wanted more. I wanted more from Natalie.
Give him some dialogue.
I wanted more from him, but I don't know if you've seen any of his interviews. He's so funny, man. He goes, MCU, what's that? Oh, I know it as Marvel. Yes. Oh, I mixed them all up. You know what? I don't even watch movies. He's really funny in interviews. I'm glad he got his check. He said his kids wanted him in this. Hey, I get to see him in that movie later on with the rest of the cast. I'm good with him. Right. He's allowed to get his bag over here and then be able to go give us all the good stuff later on. But yeah, I wanted more.
And then I did also want to talk about Natalie Portman, who, obviously has been absent from this franchise for a couple of movies, yet is here in a big way in this one. And I found it to be just a little bit weird. Like, I don't mean to come across like harsh, but I felt like they had no idea what to do with her character. She felt like her personality would change to fit the needs of the scene she was in.
Yes.
Where certain times she's anxious, certain times she's confident, certain times she's like doesn't want to step on toes, and the next time she's ready to punch Zeus in the face. Like, they just never really decided what she was doing there.
I don't know. I will say I think a lot of people were like skeptical that they were going to be doing a lot with her character, and surprisingly, I don't think they do enough. I don't know. I actually wanted to see a little bit more of her and how they were going to expand that whole idea of kind of like the 007 thing where they were sharing in the last movie the title between each other, and I wanted to see more of that back and forth between her and Thor, especially since they had a relationship. And to my surprise, you get a couple of these scenes already out there in the promo. The best banter, the best like relationship stuff comes between Thor, his hammer, and his axe. His axe is jealous of his ex. That's not even an axe, it's a hammer. And his axe gets met. That whole triangle there was better than the actual human interaction. So
weirdly, yeah.
But
let's talk about the goats before we put this away.
I don't want to talk about the goats. I don't want to talk about the goats, bro. I don't want no 2013
Do you want to talk about
in my movie.
You don't want to talk about the first time they did the goats joke, or the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time, or the fifth time, or the sixth time, or the seventh time they did the goats joke.
There was something about the 8th time where they're like taking them out of the thing, right? Where I was just like, okay. All right. I like the ninth one. The ninth one was pretty clever. And then they went back to the 10th
I gotta
one.
admit, I chuckled on the fourth a little bit.
The fourth one was okay, but yeah, I don't know. It's too much, bro.
It's so much, dude. All right, Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm definitely curious to hear what the inner cuties thought of this one because my theater was eating it up, and I felt like I was some weirdo by not laughing at this one. But online, this reaction seems to be a little bit closer to how I felt.
Yours wasn't a press screening? It was a public screening?
It was a press screening, but they, everybody gets into those things now. So
I want to go see this at a public screening. I'm curious to see how people laugh at some of the jokes.